Welcome to the Hot Seat with Dot. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Sudhir, who is partner at Gravita. Sudhir, thank you for being with us.
Morning, Gavin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. I'd appreciate the viewers who may not know you already, if you'd like to give us a bit of an introduction on Gravita and yourself and the role you play there.
My name is Sudhir Rawal. I'm a partner in the managed business services. Gravita are a full-service firm of chartered accountants, private equity based. We're on a sort of a journey to acquiring lots of firms. So offshoring is really quite an important part of what we do.
Brilliant. Well, we're going to dig into that more so throughout this conversation. So today we're going to be really digging into what it means to build a global ready firm. So Sudhir, you started offshoring before it was what it is today. What pushed you originally when you started to take that leap and that journey?
Just as a sort of bit of background, our legacy businesses have been offshoring for probably a couple of decades. And certainly the business that I came from has been doing it for more than a decade. Was it a grand plan? We were quite an entrepreneurial firm, and we wanted to stay ahead of the curve and be leading the parade rather than watching it. And as I was a new boy, the baton was handed over to me to take it forward and move it on into various service lines, different ways of working. And I think whilst it's really embedded in what we do, what has been really a nice look over the last few years, particularly part of the Gravita journey, is in our firm, when new businesses come on, they have all really embraced offshoring. Mm-hmm. And we don't really push it. It's part of what we do. It's part of the mix in terms of how we deal with our work. But also we don't push it on our new firms. But it's really nice for them to be able to see how it unlocks capacity as they grow and develop. So to go back to your original question, it was really, we were entrepreneurial. We wanted to be ahead of the curve, and this is a way of doing that.
Yeah, so a strategic kind of position in a way to do it. Yeah, like you said, being proactive and getting ahead. So looking back over the time that you've spent in outsourcing, offshoring, and the many other terms, what do you see as the biggest kind of perception change with it?
I think people have caught up in our way of thinking that this isn't a bargain-based strategy. Mm-hmm. It's a capacity strategy. Yeah. So, the lowering of the cost on doing jobs is a cherry, but it's not the cake. It's really important to us to be able to work differently, to be able to work faster, and to deliver better quality work to our clients. And offshoring is the way for us to do it without breaking our people and breaking our floor plan.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's sort of in tune with the way in which the industry's kind of, I say developed loosely, because I think it's the way it's kind of the industry in terms of the talent pool, certainly in the UK, where the driver, the key driver now, like you said, is that capacity issue. Obviously, when you originally went on the journey pre-Gravita, the reason being was being of that entrepreneurial kind of mindset. That's lesser so now in sort of the reasoning for it, and it's simply just to have resource to take the work on. Not just the new work that's in the pipeline, stuff that's being tendered for, but then also the work that's in hand, because there's numbers that just aren't there in terms of working in the industry.
And there's no doubt that when we first went on the journey, I think my partners their interest was piqued by the cost. Yep. And I think probably initially that was quite an advantageous trait to have. Yep. But as we've evolved and we've taken on more work and grown and building capacity becomes more difficult, it is all about capacity to be able to do work in a better way, and thinking about how we use our offshore teams as well as our onshore teams.
So was there a particular moment or milestone when you guys realised this wasn't just about cost saving or resourcing, but it was about redefining how your firm operates?
Absolutely. We were winning a lot of outsourcing work, so sort of bookkeeping management work at pace. And the requirement from the clients was very much that they wanted the work to be onboarded pretty quickly. And this was around COVID or pre-COVID, so hybrid working was not even a twinkle in anyone's eyes. And we literally were running out of desk space because I couldn't go and recruit people quickly enough.
Because you couldn't house them.
And even if I could, I didn't have the desk space to house them. So we had to offshore at pace, and we had to do it in a way that allowed the work to be offshored well, and for the client, for the offshore team to take that work on and be able to deliver it well. But essentially, it was we ran out of desk space. So if it wasn't for offshore, we couldn't have done the work.
And couldn't have won it and brought it on board and transitioned into it smoothly. So in hindsight, how did that early decision to explore global collaboration, how did that then shape the kind of long-term strategy for Gravita?
It became part of our DNA. So we went from, can we offshore this piece of work, to why shouldn't we offshore this piece of work? And that absolutely changed the way that our mindset worked. And then we, like most businesses, you tend to start offshoring with maybe annual accounts. You may start doing some bookkeeping and management accounts. And then we looked at company secretarial work. We were looking at taxation. We were looking at payroll. And we just sort of started looking at it across the board.
And to roll it out.
Our internal finance team. There wasn't an area of the business that our initial thought wasn't, how do we offshore this? And so it changed the whole mindset.
And that, I was going to say that changed the mindset as to not.
But I was very lucky that I had a partner set that was very pro offshoring.
Yeah.
They were all on board that this is what we should be doing as a business. And that still, pervades through now.
Yeah.
That as a business, our firm very much sees offshoring as part of our mix. And, we look at it in that perspective of, can we offshore it? And if you take, say, managed business services where, it's accounts, it's bookkeeping, it's payroll, it's company secretarial, all of those service lines are offshore to some extent.
So it's holistic in the way in which that you guys do it.
Absolutely.
And it's key, I think, in terms of having that firm-wide mindset and that culture, that everyone's in tune with that. Everyone's on the same journey. You mentioned on a partner level. How is it? Similarly, again, is it then kind of transcended down into that kind of like manager level, and then the members then say below them in their teams? Sort of how is it looked in terms of bringing the managers, maybe the people who are day to day more involved with the offshore team? How has it looked in getting them embracing the offshore model?
You have to take your team with you.
Yeah.
The team cannot see offshoring as a threat to them. I've always been very clear that this isn't about reduction in jobs.
Yeah.
It's how we do the jobs, how we do it, where we do it.
An enabling factor.
It's enabling. Can we do it better, faster, and deliver a better quality of work? And I think once teams realise that's what it is, you take them on the journey, that they realise that is what you're trying to achieve, and there is a capacity issue. We all know recruitment is very difficult in London in particular, but in other parts of the country as well. That what we're trying to do here is we've got work, we need to deliver it. We have a UK team, and our offshore team will support that delivery model.
Bro.
But fundamentally, if you don't bring your team with you, then it will not work.
Yeah. And obviously for any of those where it's a new process and a new kind of team structure to adopt. There's the change mindset, which is it's a hard one to overcome, but it sounds as though everyone's on the same, pulling in the same direction in that sort of way. So yeah, that's key to.
What's been a really lovely story actually is one of our newer offices. They, as you said, we don't push it.
Yep.
They will generally come to us and say, we have a capacity issue. How can you help support?
So it's an organic kind of flow with
absolutely.
that way.
So we have, one of our offices, they started offshoring accounts work about a year ago. And I was having a conversation with them 2 weeks ago and saying, would you go back to the old days? And it was an emphatic no. They love how it's now done.
Yep.
I think they feel that they get a really good quality product. They have a really good relationship with the manager and the team members offshore. It's a very holistic approach, and it's working really well. So for me, that's a real positive story.
Yep.
Because that was a business that didn't offshore before, and we were very, very careful about not making them offshore. They came to us, capacity issue, and we're now delivering in a way that everyone's really engaged.
Yeah, and I think it's the way in which that particular, say, office or team or teams were able to adopt it. It wasn't a forceful downward pressure to do that and make that decision. It was the solutions there. If you have the need and you want to go down that route, then yeah, the solution's available to you, which I think helps. It's change management. It can be quite resistant if that pressure comes. But if it's organic, like you said, the journey's been, and we've seen, then yeah, there's going to be a lot better.
I mean, we've learned a lot of lessons. From probably in our early days, it was more imposition, to now. That the holistic approach, you can come on board when you're ready, and it's very clear to see that there is a lot less dissension and a lot more embracing as you follow the latter route rather than the former.
Yeah, agreed. Now, as a partner, how do you evaluate when to, say, lead an industry shift versus, say, wait and watch it?
We've always been quite wired to do things differently, to look at how we can improve our processes. And when I used to lead the outsourcing team in one of our legacy firms, we were the innovation lab for the business. So if there was a new process, a new software, we would very much look to introduce that to our team, and bring that through
and pilot it
and test it, break it, see if what didn't work, and do things differently. So it was just wired into the team that I looked after, that they would be doing things differently a lot. And we didn't stand still, and which is something that will hold us in really good stead in the future because of the way the world of AI. That not to worry about change, not to see that as a challenge, but see it as a way of working better.
And how was that in terms of your experience with the team? Was that one where you had a lot of people on board wanting to be a part of that, in that kind of task force championing new processes, systems? What was there any kind of fallout in that?
There's always going to be some fallout.
Yeah.
But as I said to you before, you've got to bring your team with you, and you've got to explain to them why you're doing it. And this isn't a challenge to their. There's not a challenge to their jobs. This is what we're trying to do, is to make our jobs more interesting, and to do more better quality work, and to do it quicker and give them back more time. Because people want more time to themselves. And we're trying to get them to do more work. And so there's a capacity issue, there's a time issue. But I think actually what's happened over time is because the team in particular has become just so used to doing things differently and changing and implementing new bits of software. it's just part of what we do.
Yeah.
So actually, you don't get the challenges anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually getting people wanting to put their hands up to say, yeah, can I lead on this?
Yeah.
Can I do this? As opposed to, oh, don't give that to me.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give it to someone else? So I think there's just been a total mind shift change
Yep.
in terms of our team and our firm in how people want to be involved in these new projects and new ways of working.
And have you seen, maybe not like it being led from a partner level, but do you now see from a manager level them being proactive in looking at new ways
Absolutely.
to do stuff and raising that to then take forward?
You don't want partner in position.
Mm-hmm.
Their partners should be there to support
Yep.
and encourage, and maybe have come up with the ideas in the first place. But we have some really great tech guys that will come to the partner set with, these are new bits of software that we need to introduce, and then that usually is given to a manager to lead on and take forward, and which then just encourages everyone to get involved.
Yep. No, it's good that it's not then laid on the shoulders of the partner group. There is that next layer who are wanting to drive the firm and them individually kind of forward and doing things better.
It does make their jobs more interesting, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If you're doing your day-to-day grind, I mean, why do you offshore? Well, part of it is that the onshore team can do more interesting work.
Yeah. Increase bandwidth. Yeah.
And increase their bandwidth, and actually the more compliance work can be done offshore.
Yep.
And the more day-to-day grind can be done by the offshore team, which allows the onshore team to do more interesting bits of work. So it's a win-win.
Yep. And spend more time with the clients as that kind of, and build those relationships. So you've been doing this long enough to see all the challenges of cross-border collaboration. What have you learned about, sustaining collaboration over the time with an offshore team?
If collaboration is the holy trinity, then it's communication times 3.
Yep.
You have to be able to communicate with your offshore team. It's got to be a collaboration, because there'll be ups and downs, there'll be problems, but you've got to be able to talk to your teams offshore in a way that's empathetic. We're all people after all. People need holidays. People will have challenges with family, and particularly in an offshore environment, there might be cultural aspects where families' responsibility is quite strong.
Yep.
And so if you're not empathetic, if you're not collaborating, if you're not communicating all the time, it just doesn't work.
Yep.
So I would think the other thing is that you really treat your offshore team as your own team from very early on.
Yep, agreed.
Don't make it a transactional environment. So it's very, very easy. And I think, we were probably guilty of this in the past, that's the offshore team, we're the onshore team. If things go wrong, it's very easy to blame the offshore team. But actually, what we've really learned is the more you collaborate, the more you communicate, the more you discuss, the more trust that there is, you just deal with problems so much better.
Yep. No, it's good. I think you also get the the buy-in from on an individual basis. Yes, you have an offshore team, but they are individuals, they are humans. Sometimes the human element can be forgotten sometimes. I think when you invest that time from, say, an onshore perspective, you invest the time to communicate, collaborate with an offshore team or individual member, you're transcending your firm's culture across borders, making that inclusion piece as an individual or as a team. So you're working as one, and I think it's that unity piece. So yeah, I've seen it. But yeah, it's interesting. Communication definitely top of the bill in terms of issues. But
I think if you're not communicating very well, it comes across very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And I think, as I said earlier, I think the trust element goes both ways.
Mm-hmm.
I think the offshore team need to know that you trust them.
Yep.
And if they don't feel that you trust them and it becomes a very transactional exercise, then, they'll be defensive. And actually, we all make mistakes.
Yep.
We all get things wrong. We just, we've got to take ownership of those and move forward and solve them.
So on the note of communication, obviously communication being kind of a broad sort of term, I suppose, the platforms in which the team communicate in a day-to-day, obviously written communication. It's hard to build that kind of relationship and rapport. I have people I work with who, is purely on a kind of written email format, but I can assure you that I don't have the relationships that say I do with those that I meet in person or have Teams calls with. So how do the team communicate and collaborate with their offshore counterparts?
The usual things. So they'll speak on the phone.
Yep.
They'll talk on Teams.
Yep.
They will email. So the normal forms of communication they will use.
Yep.
We absolutely encourage face-to-face conversations.
Yep.
So obviously face-to-face in that environment means
in a digital world.
In digital world means over Teams. And we would discourage sending emails because words, things don't get interpreted well enough.
Yep.
So certainly just talk constantly and
assuming that's a kind of almost policy internally as well across the UK offices, where team members will, it's easier if you're in the office with one another, but if you're collaborating with people from London to Oxford to Bristol, I'm assuming that's the same. They'll jump on a Teams call internally as well.
Yeah. And camera, obviously the usual etiquette of cameras on.
Yep.
And actually, what you do is you just build a relationship with your counterpart offshore, and you learn about their families. They'll learn about yours in the same way as you would have a cooler moment in the UK.
Yeah. Coffee,
you have the same relationships with the team offshore. People will follow each other on Instagram, Facebook, all of those sort of collaborations, and it just builds a lot of empathy.
Yeah.
And we have people that have worked for a long time in our offshore teams. There is this great notion of attrition in offshore teams, but actually at senior levels and the people that we sort of deal with on a face-to-face, day-to-day basis, the attrition is pretty low. Yeah,
and that's the testament to the culture and the way in which that the model's been embraced by the firm and as onshore members of said firm.
The other thing I would absolutely recommend people to do is to go out to India. We go out at least once a year.
Yep.
And it, first of all, you meet your team in person.
Yep.
You get to know them. You can do all of your exercise, your mentoring, your training. All of that is done face to face, and actually the engagement when you're delivering those messages and those training sessions and the mentoring sessions is huge. And you get, wide-eyed, really engaged, interested people, which you wouldn't get over a Teams call.
Yep. Agreed.
And you can touch a lot more people, a lot more touch points, and the warmth and the hospitality is just wonderful. So I would always recommend people and businesses to go out there at least once a year. It's
a glimpse behind the curtain, because there is kind of a bit of a sort of a screen, obviously, where there kind of naturally is going to be with an offshore team, but the way, just the methods, Teams calls, even better going and meeting the team in person, just to have that, just to have the insight as to what your offshore team members' commute looks like. You just got a lot more understanding and insight, so that you can be more empathetic. It's if it's raining cats and dogs in Mumbai, it's raining cats and dogs and it's flooding the streets. So if it's a case of having to work from home that day, you can really understand the sort of reasons why. But no, it's great. I know obviously we've been to India and you and I and your team there as well, and I see the value that it brings.
Well, I took out, so we went out in May, most recently, and I took out 2 directors with me. One had been out on numerous occasions, so was well versed with visiting the offshore team. And the other one was virgin, hadn't been before, and his engagement, having come back, well, first of all, his engagement when he was there was absolutely outstanding, was brilliant, really invested, really took a lot of time, care, really supported the teams, took a lot of feedback from them and has brought that back to the UK. But actually his investment post that in the whole process, I know he was pretty engaged anyway, but his investment in the whole process post the trip is just, probably doubled, if not tripled. And that is now purveying through our business and our firm, and just showing that engagement and people have got to realise it's hard work. It's not a jolly when you go out there. There are some fun bits, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
But it's hard work. But you've got to, you're delivering some really good sessions when you're there. But the power of that both ways is huge.
Yeah, massive. It's very stacked in value, I would say, and throughout the numerous clients that we've had the pleasure of taking over and hosting in India, it's not one has kind of come out of it without taking masses of value back home to the firm, and then that continues to escalate. So no, it's good. What was, in terms of your last trip to India, one of the key takeaways in terms of the more work side, kind of key highlight from a work element, and then key highlight from a personal side?
Well, the personal side is quite easy, actually. We went to the Wankhede Stadium to watch an IPL game, which has always been on the bucket list. Though we only saw half the game because we had to go to dinner afterwards. That was a fantastic experience. I've been to an IPL game before, but not at that stadium. And that is just one of the iconics. It's like being at Lord's in the UK to the Wankhede in Mumbai is an incredible place. Noise, atmosphere. From a work point of view, I think hugely it was the engagement of the team. And I think this time round it felt accelerated. I felt they were more engaged. And one of the things I really love is that when you do go back on a regular basis, you see the development of individual people. And there was one particular lady who the first time that we went was a real wallflower, really didn't say very much, back of the room. And it was very conspicuous she wasn't saying anything. And then every time we've gone, she said more and spoke and more and engaged more. And this time, I mean, she has now become a pod for us. So she has obviously been, has developed quite well. But actually her engagement was at such a level that she was leading conversations above more senior people in the team because she was so invested. She was so encouraged to talk and to speak. So I think the development of individuals that you get to know over a period of time, over subsequent visits, is a real joy.
And I think that's a product of the the investment that you guys have obviously put in. Obviously, you said, it's not an easy thing. There's work involved, and it's two things: the work involved from, say, the London or again Bristol, Oxford-based team, the investment they put in to nurture and bring those qualities out and develop said offshore individuals, and the culture as well. They obviously, if they've been there for a long time, it indicates they're happy, but also in terms of personal development and that kind of coming away from the quiet one, hiding and ducking from conversations, to see them kind of lead in those. They've obviously flourished in an environment that they've been enabled to. So, how have the processes and the expectations evolved over time since you started outsourcing offshoring?
Obviously technology and processes are changing at a real pace.
Yep.
The way we worked a year ago is probably different to how we work now, and the version a decade ago is on a different planet.
Yep.
So process is important. And we have multiple offices, so we need to make sure that Exeter works the same way as Bristol, it works the same way as London, as Brentwood, as Oxford. We're all on the same page, and so that's the Gravita way. So the Gravita way will gives us a framework to work with, but our people give us our soul, and it's a human business after all.
Yep.
So we have to work in a collaborative way, and to ensure that our processes match the technological changes. And what's the technological changes that allowed us to do actually is, whereas historically it was the offshoring was very much around accounts and bookkeeping, management accounts,
Pigeonholed to those sort of service lines. Yeah.
You can do so many different things. Audit, which was which was obviously a very compliance orientated function. Audit is offshored now as well. We have offshore teams that help us with our audit work as well. So process will evolve and process will change. The human element is obviously very important, but it just means that you can do more and differently.
So what is your approach to ensuring that the offshore doesn't just deliver, but truly integrates with the onshore team?
Integration isn't accidental. There's a constant communication. There's a daily, weekly calls. We have monthly calls at different levels. There's the shared social media relationships.
Yep.
You just a lot of it is just around communication. That's how you integrate your teams. That's how you ensure that you work together in a symbiotic way, and it's not a transactional experience.
Yep.
I think it's very easy early on in a relationship with an offshore partner is that it becomes very transactional. You give them a piece of work, they deliver it, and particularly around probably annual accounts. I think that could probably still operate on that basis. But the more that you have different service lines, the more that you have bookkeeping and management accounts, where it's just a constant communication, because you can have some quite large pieces of work.
Yep.
And the teams have to talk all the time. They need to communicate all the time. There needs to be trust between the two. So I think the more the work that you offshore, and depending on what type of work that you offshore, that the integration just becomes as one.
So sort of throughout that, has there been any kind of light bulb moments, kind of key markers where you've thought, right, yeah, this is why we do that, or this is why we do it that way?
There's probably two. When we hit COVID, and all the chaos that ensued around furlough, our payroll team wasn't set up and ready to deliver on furlough. Our offshore team just took that on board and delivered. And they rescued us. They delivered that work so well, and it was seamless. They took it on with communications and integration and relationships with our UK team, but actually they delivered the furlough brilliantly, and they dealt with all of that.
So enabled you to be dynamic in such situations.
Absolutely.
Hopefully we don't see such situations again, but you were dynamic enough to roll with it.
Very much so, and they delivered on that. And then later on, where we lost a member of our payroll team because they were struggling for the work from home scenario, and they didn't want to carry on. They stepped in literally straight away to provide us with a payroll resource to take that forward. So they really rescued our payroll function over the COVID period.
Okay.
So we'll be forever grateful for them to deliver that work.
Yeah.
But that really showed actually the partnership that we had. You know, we went to them and said, we need you to help us with this and this and this. And they just stepped in and delivered. So that was absolutely light bulb moment that,
Yep.
you know, they could literally do whatever we needed them to do. But that was because there was trust on both sides.
Yep.
And the other times, I think, why do we do it? Well, I think you know, we touched on it when we go out to India.
Yep.
And you see the investment from the teams. You see how engaged they are. And they want to talk to you. They want to develop a relationship. They want to ask you questions of how things are done. And I think that just changes your mindset.
Yep.
And I think if there's ever a waverer around why you offshore, once you go out and visit, that definitely, you know, moves the dial on.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I know clients have mentioned it before. It's also about you know, growing a global team, but being able to provide roles and opportunities to, you know, really credible and talented individuals. I think, yeah, for clients like yourselves to go over and see those people in person and see how eager and willing and how talented they are, yeah, I can quite easily understand how that would be a real kind
And we've
of...
actually done it the other way around as well. So we've had offshore teams come over to us in the UK, and I suppose the advantage of that is that they are able to get some more touch points than they would ordinarily do. So rather than just talking to myself or whoever's come out with me, they'll get to see the whole team. But obviously the flip side is only one or two people that can do that generally.
Yeah, like the sort of key team leads and senior members.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, I would encourage that as well. You know, and it shouldn't always be. I know, for example, in your case, you know, obviously your founder comes over that's based in India, but you're now sending what you would call your gurus, which is sort of next tier down.
Yep.
And in the past, we've actually had people that are manager level that have come across as well.
Yeah. I think it's good. It's a good way of, you know, rewarding and recognizing individuals' efforts and achievements in the good work that they've done, to give them the opportunity, because I think on the flip side of it, in this exchange program-esque kind of model, it's like we said about the onshore managers, directors, partners going over and visiting the team in India, having the individuals or team members from India come over to the UK, they get a good insight as well. You know, they may have travelled to the UK before, but if they haven't, you know, it's good for them to see it for a personal side as well as a work element. So there's a real kind of rewards and recognition.
But also they'll get access to the wider team, so they can actually converse with them and understand what their pinch points are.
Yeah.
You know, what is problematic for them. So you know, you may have a situation where the offshore team might deliver something a day late, for example.
Yep.
And actually, what is the knock-on effects of delivering a day late? And you get that by communicating with the manager or the assistant manager at our level, who's then got to have that conversation with the client.
Yep.
Or actually, if you get something delivered a day early, actually that the breathing space that creates for our team here, or the goodwill that it creates with the client by being able to deliver a day early, and delivering a day early is massive. And you get that by having those shared conversations with the team. So yes, it's UK to India, but it's also an India to,
it's still
to the UK
in
as
value
well.
the other way around. Yeah, no, massively. And the sample set of team members will be more limited, with a team member being based in India, you know, liaising and coordinating and communicating with a individual or sort of smaller sample set of team members in the UK. So for them to come over and broaden that sample set and speak to more people, and yeah, as you said, it will hit home in terms of the value in those small, maybe term them as small things, but you know, delivering a day earlier So, it's there with the client ahead of time. And what is the biggest lesson you've learnt about trust with your offshore partner?
If you don't trust your offshore partner, you don't have a relationship, you have a headache. And, there's going to be ups and downs in that relationship. And if you don't trust the person at the other end of the phone call or the other side of the desk to work through those problems, then you will just not achieve anything. And for me, the key has always been you've got to trust the other people.
Yeah,
you've got to trust your offshore partner, and we do. And we have conversations on a regular basis where team members aren't happy with something that's been delivered, but we have those conversations. It's a constructive conversation. And we'll go and fix what the problem is. Sometimes I'm actually able to tell you what a brilliant job that the team has done. And so it does work both ways. And equally, I think you've got to trust us to say, one, that we're not telling you something that's not actually a problem, but equally there might be problems at our side, and you and your team have got to be able to trust us to articulate there is a problem from our perspective that we've got
to be open and honest,
we've got to
reflective.
deal with, and we know we've had those moments, and we've had to go away and fix that.
No, I think it's very much in what I see as enabling the trust. Again, it comes back to the holy trinity of communication. If there's a good job being done, ensuring that that's being communicated. Obviously, if there's refinement needed and if there's said job or product being delivered that doesn't meet the expectations, then obviously that's communicated and received as well in the partnership sort of level. We're both working towards the same thing to ultimately deliver almost our client, the end client, our client's product at the end of the day. So provided we're all pulling in the same direction in that sort of way.
And I think it is important that I think naturally in terms of this sort of relationship is we always talk about what's not gone well or what's not going well, and it's really important to emphasize what everyone does well as well. We've had some instances at the moment we've taken on a new pod on a one-to-one for someone that's previously not dealt with a one-to-one relationship. They've worked with a pool before.
This is a new model for them.
And they've given some really brilliant feedback on the new colleague that they're working with. They're really, really happy with what they're doing. And we've fed that back, and hopefully that will go back to the team member. We've had another instance recently where one of my colleagues has been working with someone and really wants to reward them, and we're having a conversation about how we can reward them that would really show our appreciation of the great work that they're doing. And we're now we get that quite often from our team to say, we reward our team. Why are we not? Can we not reward the offshore team?
Can we not adopt that over onto the offshore team as well? We see it across our client base. It's something that we do see. We're fortunate enough to see because we have a good team and a strong team delivering a good product. And when we have clients acknowledging that and raising that, it goes a very long way, not just on a kind of senior leadership team, but to the individuals themselves. It may be perceived as something small in terms of that recognition from an onshore perspective, but how that's perceived in an offshore perspective for the team there, it's goes very, very
I think
far.
on our last trip we were there when you were doing, I think, your monthly awards.
Yes,
and what was really lovely to see was when people were receiving those rewards internally, how happy the rest of the team were for those individuals.
And championing them.
Championing them. So that was really nice to see that X person and Y person had received an award for that month, but actually everyone else was really pleased that they'd received it.
Yeah, no, it's again, it's within the culture as a dot culture to then, you know, really champion one another on, and then within that you'll have your collectives of per client having their team and kind of even further kind of championing them. So yeah, we as a business, as an employer and company, it's very human centric. So it's even better when we work with clients who carry that as well in that kind of value, really. So you've seen the profession evolve. So where do you see the next competitive edge coming from in the industry?
Oh, if the accountancy was that cheap to fix, that'd be nice. Look, I think there's three major areas that will challenge accountancy firms going forward. First is the obvious one, is AI.
Yep.
Not the buzzwordy bits, but how processes will just be embedded into what you do on a day-to-day basis, and how AI will enable you to do your work differently. So it's not maybe the big ticket stuff. It'll be like electricity. It'll be just working away. It'll be there in the background. It'll be invisible, but it'll be powering the business
as a constant, rather than a complementary, which maybe it's used for most firms now.
Yeah, and I think that the businesses that will do well in the future will be the ones that use AI to enable them to do their work differently and better. And faster, and that will give you the competitive edge. It won't be, oh, we use X for this and that and the other as a sort of big picture thing, but it's about the day to day and how it's embedded in what you do.
And more workflow.
Absolutely. The second challenge is talent. There are fewer people going into the profession. This isn't a tomorrow problem. This is a today problem. So the businesses that will do well are the ones that make sure that their team is engaged, is doing some great work, are happy, and are skilled in the right areas that they want to work with you. Because they've got choices. And you want to be the employer of choice. This is what our firm is really trying to do: is to be the employer of choice for people that have got options. I mean, we've taken a really strategic decision this year, is whereas the Big Four are really cutting down on graduate recruitment.
Intake,
we're doubling down on increasing it, and actually taking it down to a school leaver level as well. Because we think there's going to be some great talent out there that we would love to work with our firm, with our people and the ways that we work. So
and that will work across multiple locations in terms of offices.
Absolutely. And the third bit is accountancy is moving towards commoditization a lot more, and clients are looking for strategic partners rather than form fillers. So again, the firms that will do well going forward will be the ones that can do the nuts and bolts well and efficiently, but are actually a guiding partner to a client, as opposed to a compliance machine.
And the enabling... Sorry, go on.
But above all, we're humans. What we want to be as a business is we do the human bits well. And, AI will do things. Offshore partners will do things. But our teams, our firm, we want to do human well.
And I think what you sort of mentioned there, it does tie into outsourcing, offshoring in terms of being an enabling factor. Obviously, AI in coming in, if you are providing those tools agnostically, onshore, offshore, then you're just driving and expanding that bandwidth of all individuals and the efficiency. I think in regards to talent, obviously, Dot being based in India, an abundance of talent in my view, I don't think there's a dwindling pipeline there. It's still very much a stable career path for a lot of people, and there are a lot of people in India. And in terms of enabling factors then onto the advisory side, obviously you have to kind of have the onshore team ultimately who are then going to be taking on that to then increase their bandwidth. How do they do that? They then kind of hand off that capacity demand or bandwidth demand to another team member, hence offshore team.
I mean, I think it's quite interesting whether the sort of evolution of offshoring is away from processing, because AI will be doing a lot more of that, and how does that impact into them being able to provide a more advisory role, or a certainly enabler for our teams to provide more advisory work.
Yeah, I think so, and we've touched on it before. I think we as a company see AI less so as a threat, which many in the outsourcing space would do if their bread and butter, so to speak, is of that processing work. We pride ourselves on having that senior caliber of staff and talent. So we see AI as an elevator. You strap that to the belts of our team and have them trained on it and proficient in it. That will only ultimately elevate them and their kind of them position, I suppose. Like offshoring has enabled and elevated the onshore team to then do. So it's kind of like a staggered kind of effect of two different solutions. So yeah, it'll be exciting to see how it looks in the next 12, not even 12 months probably, in the next 6 to 9 months. So if you were mentoring a younger partner today, or speaking to a firm who is green to outsourcing and yet to embark on that journey, what would be your one piece of advice?
Don't overthink it. Offshoring works. Find a trusted partner, work with them, set what your parameters are. What are you trying to achieve? Be very clear with your communication, and ensure that you collaborate with them from the beginning. And as we touched on before, make sure that the offshore team are part of your team from very early on. That is just really, really important. I think my biggest learning from maybe what we didn't do well at the beginning was not to embed the offshore team as our team, not to treat them as our team. And rather than treating them as being something that's 3,000 or 4,000 miles away. The embedding of the offshore team into your team is hugely important. But at the end of the day, it works. It's been really successful. It's enabled us to grow hugely, which we wouldn't have been able to just get the talent domestically to deliver on that. The margins are good. It absolutely helps. But it's not the key thing. I think if you come at it from how can I save money, I think you're looking at it the wrong way. This is about delivery and capacity
and doing more and doing it better. So thank you, Sudhir.
Pleasure
very much for accompanying me in this very insightful conversation. It's been good to know of how things look now in terms of where the journey has led to, what's potentially on the horizon, and how it in its early days how it started. I think for many of those who are watching, it's very insightful. For those that are yet to embark on their journey, I think it's less and less so now. For those who maybe haven't even explored outsourcing and offshoring, I think the mindset has changed. So a lot more people are open to it. Based on the conversations that I have, people aren't running scared as soon as they hear offshoring or outsourcing. So yeah, very valuable insights there for the viewers who have tuned in to watch this. So thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And if you would like to speak with Dot or any of the team, if you're looking to embark your journey and look at outsourcing or offshoring, please visit the link below and you will find full details from our website. Thank you very much for watching. Take care.